50, who own your masters? Who own your masters? I buy your masters. You better shut up. I will buy your masters.
Ricky Rose, the time has come. Meech on. February 13th, get your tickets right now. It's going down. We know Florida gonna be there. Miami gonna be there. The legend himself gonna be in the building, making history. Meech, who else coming?
The whole nation. Detroit, St. Louis, California, everybody. Atlanta, Georgia, ATL, stand up.
Woo. We're gonna make history. Get your tickets right.
Rick Ross just pulled one of the coldest plays the game's seen in a minute. And the target wasn't just anybody. He lined up Big Meech, a man whose name already rings through hip-hop history, and played him like a pawn in what looked like a $120 million hustle. And the way it's unfolding, it feels less like business and more like betrayal. Then, as if the knife wasn't deep enough, 50 Cent slid right in, clowning the whole situation in that classic 50 style.
I want to do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster, small budget series. Now it's time to do a big budget film. Which director? Shout out to my homie, F. Gary Gray, Antoine Foucault, what's up? Tarantino, there's a lot of legends. This is gonna be big, I can feel it. I'm just talking,
Making sure everybody knew who got played and who been pulling the strings. The wildest part, the hood saw this scam from a mile away. Cats been whispering about Ross and his ways for years. Everybody with half an ear on the block could see it was a setup in disguise. Everybody except Meech himself. The setup, see, once Meech touched ground after his bid, the streets were buzzing. October came, and with it, the return of a legend. Everybody thought, this is it, Meech back, it's about to be major. Whole neighborhoods had hoped that BMF's name was gonna start printing money again, this time on the legal side. Meech was supposed to eat off the empire he built, respect, power, and a second chance at building something solid. That's what people thought was coming. Then out of nowhere, Rick Ross steps in like a salesman on steroids. He came with the big promises all polished up. A $120 million BMF film, major projects, legendary directors, Hollywood budgets, red carpets, the works. He dropped names like Tarantino and F. Gary Gray like he already had the contract signed, talking about how the culture been eating off a small budget series, but now it's time for the real movie. On paper, it sounded like a comeback story straight out of a Netflix script. But when you scratch past the surface, Ross was just talking. Talking loud, talking slick, talking big, but not bringing anything to the table except his own spotlight. When the smoke cleared, there wasn't no movie, no deals, no empire, just empty promises and another notch in Ross's belt of using somebody else's name to boost himself. Who was really putting in work? And that's where the streets started getting louder. Folks been peeping the real math. Everybody knew who actually put their own money and sweat into keeping the BMF legacy alive in the entertainment space. It wasn't Ross, it was 50 Cent. $50 didn't just jump in for clout. He took Lil Meech, who was barely known outside the rap scene, and put him in acting school. Paid for the training, kept it quiet, gave him a role that turned into a full-blown career. That Power spin-off series, that's 50's work. The doors Lil Meech been walking through, that's 50 sliding him the key. Meanwhile, Ross brought Meech out for...
I feel bad for Lil Meech. I don't feel bad for no grown man on this planet. Like, I'm a grown man. Why the f I gotta feel bad for another grown man? Like, you a grown man too. What you asking for my sympathy for? You be alright.
Flashy appearances and IG headlines, dangling promises he couldn't cash. Folks in the industry started side-eyeing Meech heavy because he chose to lean toward Ross, ignoring the man who was really feeding him. Tony Yayo even spelled it out plain. 50 been riding with Lil Meech from the jump. No sugarcoating, no Hollywood script, just facts. Ross's real motive now word spreading heavy that Meech's pockets looking funny. He frustrated, maybe even embarrassed, realizing Ross's only reason for attaching himself was to poke the bear, 50 Cent. This wasn't loyalty. It wasn't about business. It wasn't about helping Meech rebuild. It was about fueling a beef and using Meech as the bait. And that's where the optics got ugly. Instead of standing tall like a king, Meech started looking like a pawn in somebody else's chess game. You already know 50 wasn't finna let that slide. He stayed quiet for a while, but once the time was right, he reached into his troll playbook and threw the funniest, coldest shot. He said Ross told Lil Meech to give him his dad's address so he could send Wingstop wings. Now on the surface, it looked like just another 50-cent joke. But if you really listen, that was a dagger. 50 was basically saying, Ross ain't feeding y'all nothing but scraps, chicken wings. I'm the one putting food on your table. The streets laughed because they knew it was too close to the truth. And once 50 got going, he didn't stop. He started spilling the tea about Lil Meech's personal battles, claimed he had to send him to rehab himself, said Meech was showing up to set lit, throwing up during weapons training, couldn't hold it together. Even said he found whippets in Lil Meech's truck and had to Google what they even were. That painted 50 as the adult in the room, the man cleaning up behind everybody else's mess. Meanwhile, Ross and Big Meech were out here hyping the same destructive behavior that was dragging the kid down. But even after all that, Lil Meech was still spotted cozying up to Ross in clubs, smiling for pictures. That move had folks roasting him and the whole BMF legacy, saying the so-called bond with Ross was never about family. It was about clout, and it fell apart quick. The culture reacts Michael Rainey Jr. Yeah, 50's own power star jumped in with the knockout statement. He said flat out he don't feel sorry for Lil Meech or Big Meech. His words were blunt. Why I gotta feel bad for another grown man? You a grown man too. You'll be all right. That clip spread like wildfire. 50 doubled down, backing his actor and stamping the narrative that the Meech camp was looking weak. And when you start—
I wasn't gonna address this because I'm not trying to let nobody trick me off the streets. But I never folded, never told, never will. Death before the sign, always with me. So I'm doing this for my loved ones and the support of my friends and family.
Start digging through Ross's past, it's almost like deja vu. He's been accused of moving grimy since day one. Remember that Canada story? Ross allegedly left his own people to get jumped, then came back saying it was a test of strength. Cold, but it lines up with the picture people been painting. Ross ain't really riding for nobody but Ross. Whack 100 even chimed in, calling Ross the real villain. He said straight up that Ross never cared about Big Meech, just used him as a pawn to jab at 50. His logic was simple. If Ross was serious, he'd have moved in silence, kept it private, built something real. But he didn't. He broadcasted it, made it about himself, the pattern. And when you look at the bigger picture, it all connects. Ross been doing this for years, built his whole rap brand off names that weren't his. Rick Ross? That ain't even his name. He lifted it off the real Rick Ross, a man who was locked up while Ross was making millions off his identity. The real Rick Ross came out, confronted him, even sued him. Ross ducked him every chance he got. Same play with Larry Hoover. He threw the man's name in lyrics while Hoover sat behind bars. He profited off the weight of another man's legacy. And now it's Meech's turn. Ross ran the same blueprint, hyped the name, used the legacy.
Have you ever seen anybody confront Rick Ross about you?
Not in person, no. Anytime I'm around, he disappears.
But is there any video of anybody hey, why are you running around with this dude's name?
Boost his own shine, then vanish when it's time to actually deliver. Where it stands. The saddest part, Meech might have traded his loyalty for a clout chase. Instead of rewriting his legend and building something new, he walked right into a setup where the people who once saw him as a king now see him as another piece on Ross's board. He tried clapping back, calling 50 an internet gangster, saying all 50 does is troll from behind a phone. But by then, the clowning had already stuck. The streets called it for what it was, damage control. And the final nail, that benefit show that was supposed to be Meech's welcome home celebration, canceled. Word is Ross had his fingerprints all over that too, making sure Meech didn't have a shining moment without him. Because Ross wasn't looking to share a spotlight, he wanted to own it. The bigger question. So now the hood gotta ask, is Ross just playing the game, or did he really leave Big Meech high and dry? Is this just how the industry works? Promises, clout, betrayal? Or is this another chapter in Ross's long history of eating off other people's legacies? One thing's for sure, 50 called it years ago. He never respected Ross, not as a man, not as an artist. And watching this whole circus unfold, it's hard to argue against him.